you like steak and eggs, but sometimes you just need the street tacos, and that was just kind of this month for me. Have you ever had one of those months where you're just busy with work, with kids, with projects, and you just don't have the time you feel to edit things the way that you want to? Well, February has been that way, and I've made a few videos this month that I was really proud of with a lot of edits, but I'm wanting to try to do a couple videos where I'm not doing as many edits. So this is one of those videos, so I'm going to try to do as many one takes as I can with a few edits somewhere in there. I might have a little edit counter at some point here. But for today's video, I want to try to do as straight as possible without any edits. In today's video, I wanted to go through my month of February reading list of what I got through, and then I'll end with some of the books I'm hoping to get into in March. So let's begin. I noticed a trend in February as my reading went on that I started off heavy, and as you'll see, I got very much lighter as the month progressed because I got interested in a few books by authors that I hadn't read their extended works before. And so the first book that I finished this February was Glenn Cook's The White Rose, which is the culmination of his first trilogy of The Black Company video review coming at some point. The White Rose is a culmination that I think does an amazing job for a series that is kind of one of the godfathers, so to speak, of the grimdark political thriller fantasy novel. The White Rose follows a resistance movement that is going against a single world ruler, or someone who's attempting to be a single world ruler called the Lady. And you follow a cast of characters as they go through a bunch of political situations. You also have some flashbacks, which may not work as well. But The White Rose is a very good culmination, especially given that the series of The Black Company is, if you read it in its entirety, is an amazing 3-part arc of a story. And for me, I gave The White Rose a 4.5, and it was an amazing start to my February. My second read of February was by Jay Kristoff, his Empire of the Vampire book, which I went in hesitant about this book. It was recommended on a few channels, and I didn't really listen to any spoiler, any reviews, but it sounded intriguing. It was a world where you have the vampires have won, and you have the remnants of humanity, and you're hearing this account. And I was like, oh, that's intriguing. So I checked it out, and I'll just be honest, this was a DNF, did not finish. I am very seldom a not finish a book person. I mean, I pick up a book, I read it, and if I don't finish it, there's that feeling of what if it actually gets better? And maybe this Empire of the Vampire, maybe it does actually get better. In the very first pages I read, there was some flowery language that actually repeated the same line in 2 pages, and to me that just stuck out like a sore thumb. And I was just like, okay, let's give it a shot. And then it gets into this first-person prose storytelling from this guy who's this hero who's captured in this tower, and he's being forced to basically give his account. It sounds like he's a half vampire hybrid who fights vampires, something like very, very Blade-esque. And it seemed very intriguing, but as it went on, the first-person account that was very flowery, that just didn't make a lot of sense to me. You don't talk in that way. I would have loved instead to have flashbacks and then it cuts back to the present, something like that. It flows better. But as it went on, something happened where, let's just say, the vampire, the main character, I can't even remember his name at this point, he finds out that he is actually part vampire. He thought he was just a regular human, and something Chevalier de Leon, something like that was his name. Something like that. And he goes and finds out that he's a vampire in a situation where I read it and I just wanted to skip past it. It was just too awkward, and it just was just hit me wrong in my, it just messed me up. And I was actually checking out the sample on the library ebook, and I hit the end of the sample, and I was like, I can see where people would like this, the action and the world. It was very fascinating. It just did not sit well with me, so that was a DNF for me. My third book of February was a much lighter note, was Terry Pratchett's Moving Pictures, which I have a video review of that. You can check a card up here. I'll try to figure out how to actually do that. Editing, YouTube. Try to get it all figured out. But Moving Pictures was a enjoyable read that was a parody of the silver screen era of silent film America, and you're following a place called Hollywood where there's these movies that are being made, and is it magic? It's not, but then there's movie magic, and you follow these characters that have all these references to classic films in in cinema history, which is really enjoyable to read about. You have some interesting characters from Gaspard the dog to the main characters. I forget their names off the top of my head, but you have a few recurring characters from the Discworld series as well, and it's a very enjoyable, fun read that's very fast-paced. It's only about, I think, 300 pages long, and it's a very enjoyable read. I give it a 4.5, and check out my review if you're more interested in this film. The fourth book that I read in February was Ken Follett's culminating work in his Kingsbridge series called The Armor of Light. The Kingsbridge series follows, in the 5-book novels, follow the history of a few different family lines in this one area in England for about 700 years, following major events in English history, all surrounding this hamlet that grows into a city that has a cathedral that is built with a massive bridge. And it's an amazing historical tale. And The Armor of Light picks up during the time of the French Revolution. So there's the fear of republicanism. There is the Napoleonic War era. You're seeing the rise of the factory system with the steam engine and spinning jenny. And it's picking up all of that social upheaval, coupled with the military upheaval that's happening with the Napoleonic era in Europe. And along with that, you have some romance stories that are going by. You have some clerical, faith-based stories that are going on at the same time. And it's a very enjoyable book that I think was a very solid culmination. It's not the best book in the series, but in my opinion, it's also not one of the worst. I would give it a 4 out of 5, and highly recommend that you check out the Kingsbridge series. As I said, the month of February started off a little heavy, and it started getting lighter as it went on, because my 5th book that I read in February was another Discworld book called Eric, following the Rincewood Wizard arc in Discworld. If you've never read Discworld, it's this world that is shaped like a disc on the back of a giant elephant, 4 elephants that is on the back of a giant turtle that's swimming through space. It's a whole absurdist, humorous thing that's absolutely hilarious. And Eric follows Rincewood as he is summoned back from what's called the dungeon dimension. He's summoned and becomes almost like a thrall. This kid thinks that he's a demon, but he's actually just a wizard who has a lot of bad luck. And you follow them as they're going through a series of adventures with this kid who thinks that they're going on these adventures to become, for him, the most powerful sorcerer on Earth. And it turns out they're being played with by a bunch of the underworld demons who are basically trying to shape history. And one really funny thing that happened in there, I laughed because I teach history, and they had one character that they met in the underworld whose name was De Quirm. He's basically supposed to be Ponce de Leon, and he was seeking for the Fountain of Youth, and he found the Fountain of Youth, and he drank the water of the Fountain of the Youth, so he was going to be young forever, except he forgot to boil the water, and the bacteria killed him. Absurdism. And so Eric was a very enjoyable read. It had its issues, but I thought it was a great fourth chapter of the Rincewood arc, and I gave it a 3.5. It was an enjoyable read, so if you like Discworld, check out Eric. My 6th read of February, surprise, surprise, was another Discworld book, and I jumped into The Truth, which was the next book in the Industrial Revolution arc, and this book follows a couple of fledgling newspaper reporters, following one in particular who is starting the first newspaper in Ankh-Morpork, the Ankh-Morpork Times, I believe it's called, and you have kind of a New York Times versus like the National Enquirer battle that goes on. You have the dwarves who are forming the newspaper presses, and you have the ancient guard who's against the new interlopers, and you have a political situation that there's fervor culminating, and there's a vampire who loves photography, flash photography, but every time the flash goes off, he disintegrates and bursts into flame. And so just absurdism. It is absolutely hilarious. So if you like anything that has to do with thinking about fact-finding, storytelling, political thriller, The Truth is for you. And I give it a 4.5, a very strong Discworld book, and just overall book in general. You don't have to have a background in the Discworld to enjoy The Truth. My 7th read of February, I found out that one of my favorite authors of all time, Fonda Lee, who is the author of the Jade Bone Saga, that she had a series of sci-fi books that I had no clue about whatsoever. I was looking up Fonda Lee on my library app on my phone, and I found one of her earliest works, which was called Zeroboxer, and I jumped in and was very surprised. This is a MMA style world fighting that is taking place in these space stations. And think about MMA in zero gravity. You're following a guy named Carl Luca who is rising up the ranks and fighting and becoming a figurehead or a spokesperson for the Earth factions that are speaking out against against genetic engineering. Mars has people who have been genetically engineered to survive, and so they're stronger, and the people of Earth think that that's wrong, because if you're genetically engineering yourself too far, you're going away from what God created. And so there's all of that kind of social, technical, scientific upheaval going on, and Carlucca gets stuck in the middle of it, and his fighting takes on a political element. And so MMA and zero gravity orbit around Earth, I mean, come on. I gave it a 3.5. It had its issues. I thought the romance in it was a little quick to happen. It's definitely more on the YA side of science fiction, but I was pleasantly surprised with how good it was. If the romance story had been a little bit stronger, I would have given this a solid 4, but it just kind of dropped it down for me a little bit. But if you like the idea of MMA fighting in zero gravity space, check out Zero Fighter. My 8th and final book of February was by Fonda Lee as well, called Exo, the first book of a 2-book series. It's another YA science fiction series set in a futuristic Earth that has been conquered by an alien species that is very lenient and tolerant and working with humanity. They're called the Shrooms derogatorily by people. They're like a octopus fungi hybrid that doesn't eat meat, and so it's not like they're colonizing Earth as some sort of meat factory. And as they go on, you follow this young man who is a son of a politician. He's a police force, kind of a security force that is helping the Shrooms, helping the alien race to kind of control and run Earth. And you then jump into the resistance movement against it, and that the drama that's there. You have some family drama, and this young man, he has an exosuit. It's a genetic suit that has been modified. It's like a secondary skin that turns into armor or blades and things, and it's been grafted genetically into him at a young age. And it has some really interesting conversations within this book about resistance and genetics and what would happen if there was a takeover. And as you have this dominating force, what is there to resist, especially when that dominating force may not be negative, but it's not human. So what does that look like? So it was another enjoyable read for February, which I really liked. Definitely wasn't perfect. I gave it a 3 out of 5. It was definitely derivative of a lot of the sci-fi things. There were some unique elements, but the love interest as well, you could definitely tell that Fonda Lee, who does an amazing job in her later Greenbone saga, that she is figuring out her writing style, especially when it comes to relationships. It just kind of jumped into the relationship too fast. It just wasn't believable. Very YA. Nothing wrong with YA books. I've read several that I absolutely love. This one just didn't hit it home for me, but it was an enjoyable read. So if you're interested in YA sci-fi, check out Exo by Fonda Lee. February was a reading month for me that started off heavy, but as life went on, I just found myself reading these quick, easy 250, 300 page books that are very quick and easy to read, and realizing that, sometimes you like to read a big, thickum steak and eggs style book that just is very hearty and satisfying, but takes a long time to get through. And you know what? Sometimes just reading a quick and easy street taco book, you like steak and eggs, but sometimes you just need the street tacos. And that was just kind of this month for me. The month of March, I'm really looking forward to reading a few different books. I want to finish up the Exo series by Fonda Lee. Also on my reading shelf over here, I have The Golem and the Djinn, which I'm really wanting to get to. I've been wanting to. I have a couple history books I want to get to. There's one about the sabotage of Nazi Germany's heavy water plants in Norway, which is a really cool story. There's another one about a submarine warfare battle that takes place. And then I'm also wanting to check out, I believe it's by K.J. Parker. I'm wanting to check out his, I think it's called like 16 Ways to Defend a Walled City, something like that. I've heard that's really interesting, along with some of his other books. And so looking forward to that. I have some really fun videos I'm excited to do this month. So thank you so much for watching. If you're interested at all in American football and Italian cuisine and Italy and travel, go ahead and check out this video called Playing for Pizza, which I had a lot of fun doing this review. Otherwise, check out over here. There'll be a random video from YouTube, one of mine. So thank you so much for watching. God bless. Have a wonderful day and a wonderful March.